I stood in the church hallway, mascara running down my cheeks, clutching my designer purse like a shield. The cream-colored invitation to my own son's wedding lay crumpled at my feet, the gold lettering now smeared from my tears. 10 minutes ago, I had been a proud mother. Now I was cheap trash, at least according to my mother-in-law. My name is Vivian, and this was supposed to be the happiest day of my son's life. Instead, it became the day that would change mine forever. You can't possibly think you belong here. Nadine's voice rang out, sharp as a blade. She stood between me and the chapel doors, her perfectly coiffed silver hair and Chanel suit a stark reminder of everything she thought I wasn't. A paralegal from the wrong side of the tracks, wearing a knockoff dress to my grandson's wedding? Absolutely not. That's enough, Mother, my husband Damien said weakly, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. They never did when his mother was around. I straightened my spine, willing my voice not to shake. This is my son's wedding. I have every right to be here. Your son? Nadine laughed, the sound echoing off the marble floors. The son we raised while you were working your pathetic little job? The son who went to private schools on our dime? That son? Mom, please. Tristan appeared in his tuxedo, his face pale. My beautiful boy, looking so much like his father, yet somehow stronger. Or so I thought. Maybe we should— No, darling. Sierra, his bride-to-be, cut in. She placed a manicured hand on his arm, her diamond engagement ring catching the light. Your grandmother is right. We can't have drama today. I watched my son's resolve crumble under his fiancée's touch. I'm sorry, Mom, he whispered, still not looking at me. Maybe it's better if you go. The words hit like physical blows, but it was the slight nod from Damien, my husband of 25 years, that shattered what was left of my heart. Security will escort you out, Nadine said, pressing a button on her phone. Do try not to make a scene. I looked around at the faces, my family, the wedding guests peering from behind pillars, the event staff pretending not to stare. But it was the secret look between Nadine and Damien that caught my eye. Something passed between them, something that spoke of more than just this moment. Don't bother calling security, I said, my voice suddenly steady. I know my way out. I turned on my heel, my knockoff Jimmy Choos clicking against the marble floor. Each step felt like walking through concrete, but I forced myself forward. I wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing me run. Oh, and Vivienne? Nadine called after me. That dress really does look cheap, just like everything else about you. I paused at the heavy wooden doors, my hand on the brass handle. Without turning around, I spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. You know what's funny, Nadine? You're so worried about looking cheap, you've forgotten how to be human. The doors closed behind me with a thunderous boom. Outside, the May sunshine felt like a spotlight, exposing every tear track on my face, every tremor in my hands. A young valet approached, concern in his eyes. Mrs. Phillips, would you like me to get your car? I almost laughed. Mrs. Phillips. That name suddenly felt like a curse. Yes, I said, handing him my ticket. And it's just Vivian now. As I waited, I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. The balance stared back at me. $3,127.19. My separate account that Damien didn't know about. Not much, but it was mine. My car arrived. A modest Honda Civic that had always embarrassed Nadine. As I slid into the driver's seat, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Mascara-stained cheeks, red eyes, disheveled hair. But behind the mess, I saw something else. Something burning. I started the engine, my hands steady now on the wheel. They thought this was the end of me. Poor, pathetic Vivian, running away in shame. But they were wrong. This wasn't an ending. This was a beginning. I pulled out of the church parking lot, leaving behind the sound of wedding bells. My phone buzzed with a text from Cynthia, my best friend. Are you okay? I just heard what happened. I didn't respond. Instead, I turned onto the highway, heading east toward the city, toward the law firms and glass towers where people like Nadine made their fortunes, where people like me were supposed to know their place. Well, they were about to learn something about places, and power, and patience, because I wasn't going to get mad. I was going to get even. 10 years can change everything. I stood at the window of my corner office on the 42nd floor, watching the city pulse below. My reflection showed a different woman than the one who'd fled that church a decade ago, Tailored Armani suit, perfectly styled hair, and eyes that had learned to hide their pain behind steel. "Ms. Phillips?" My assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Your 9 o'clock is here." "Send them in," I replied, turning from the window. The leather chair creaked as I settled behind my desk, surrounded by the fruits of my relentless climb: law degrees, corporate awards, and the nameplate that read Senior Partner. The door opened, and a young paralegal entered, clutching a stack of files. I saw myself in her nervous stance, remembered the countless nights of study, the 3-job juggle while attending law school. "The briefs you requested, Ms. Phillips," she said, placing them on my desk. "Thank you, Sarah." I gestured to the chair across from me. "Sit. Tell me what you found." She hesitated, then sat ramrod straight. "The merger documents? There are inconsistencies, the kind that could sink the whole deal." I smiled. "Good. Now tell me why they matter." As Sarah walked me through her findings, my phone buzzed. A text from Cynthia. "Lunch today? We need to talk about Tristan's call." My heart skipped, but I kept my face neutral as Sarah finished her presentation. "Excellent work," I told her. "You have good instincts. Trust them." After she left, I called Cynthia. "What about Tristan?" "He's asking about you," she said. "Sierra's pregnant. He wants his mother to know his child." The pen in my hand snapped, ink bleeding onto my fingers. 10 years, Cynthia. 10 years of silence, and now he wants to play happy family? People change, Viv. You did. I wiped the ink off with a tissue. I changed because I had to, because they left me no choice. "And look at you now," Cynthia said softly. "The most feared corporate attorney in the city, partner at 45. You won." "Not yet," I muttered, my eyes falling on the morning's newspaper. The headline screamed, "King Industries faces federal investigation." "Viv," Cynthia's tone held warning. "Don't tell me you're still—" A knock interrupted us. Mauricio, my colleague from the firm's criminal division, stood in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but you need to see this." He held up a thick manila envelope. "I'll call you back," I told Cynthia, hanging up. "What is it?" Mauricio closed the door behind him. "Remember that favor you asked? About monitoring certain activities?" He placed the envelope on my desk. "The Kings are in trouble. Real trouble." My hands didn't shake as I opened the envelope. Documents spilled out. Bank statements, offshore accounts, questionable transactions, all leading back to Nadine King. "How bad?" I asked. "Bad enough that they'll need the best lawyer in town." Mauricio's dark eyes met mine. "Word is, they're looking for representation." I leaned back, a decade of planning crystallizing into this moment. "Interesting. Vivian." Mauricio perched on the edge of my desk. "I've known you long enough to recognize that look. Whatever you're thinking." "I'm thinking about justice," I cut in. "About karma." "About revenge," he corrected. "Look, I get it. What they did to you—" "You don't get it," I snapped, standing up. "You weren't there. You didn't see my son's face when he chose them over me. You didn't watch my husband stand silent while his mother destroyed me." Mauricio held up his hands in surrender. "Okay, just be careful. Revenge has a way of burning both ends." After he left, I returned to the window. Below, a sleek black car pulled up to the building. Through the tinted glass, I caught a glimpse of silver hair. My phone buzzed again. An email this time, from an address I hadn't seen in years. "Dear Ms. Phillips, on behalf of King Industries, we request an urgent meeting regarding potential legal representation." I laughed, the sound echoing off the glass. 10 years ago, I'd been nothing to them. Now they needed me. Now they'd have to look me in the eye and ask for help. My assistant's voice crackled again. "Ms. Phillips, Mrs. King is here. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's quite insistent." I straightened my jacket, checked my reflection one last time. Perfect. Polished. Powerful. "Send her in," I said, settling behind my desk. "And Sarah, hold all my calls." The door opened, and there she stood. Nadine King, a decade older but still radiating that same aristocratic disdain. Until she saw me, until recognition hit, the color drained from her face. "You—" I smiled, gesturing to the chair across from me. "Hello, Nadine. Please have a seat. We have so much to discuss." Nadine stood frozen in my doorway, her perfectly manicured hand clutching her Hermes bag like a lifeline. The mighty matriarch looked smaller somehow, more fragile than I remembered, but I hadn't forgotten how quickly she could strike. "This must be some kind of joke," she said, her voice thin. "I requested the firm's senior partner. You're looking at her." I gestured again to the chair. "Shall we discuss your legal troubles, or would you prefer to stand?" She sank into the chair, her legs seemingly giving out. "How, when did you become everything you said I couldn't be?" I finished for her, enjoying the flinch my words produced. "Let's focus on why you're here. King Industries is facing federal investigation for financial irregularities. Quite serious ones, from what I understand." "You have no right to handle this case," Nadine snapped, some of her old fire returning. "The conflict of interest is non-existent," I cut in smoothly. "We've been legally separated for 8 years. I have no financial ties to the King family. In fact, I pulled out a document from my desk. I'm one of the few attorneys in the city qualified to handle this level of corporate litigation who isn't already conflicted out." Nadine's hands trembled as she reached for her phone. "I'll find someone else." "Good luck," I said, leaning back. "The SEC filing deadline is in 3 days. Most firms won't touch a case this complex on such short notice. But please, by all means, keep looking. I'm sure the media would love to report on how King Industries is shopping for representation while under federal investigation." She set her phone down, defeat creeping into her posture. "What do you want?" "To do my job." I opened the case file. "Unless you'd prefer to explain to your board of directors why you let personal feelings interfere with securing the best possible legal representation?" A long silence filled the room. I could almost see the calculations running behind her eyes, weighing pride against necessity. "Fine," she finally said, "but I want everything in writing. Every conversation documented." "Of course." I pressed the intercom. "Sarah, bring in the retainer agreement, please." While we waited, Nadine studied me with those sharp eyes. "You planned this, didn't you, all these years?" "You give me too much credit," I replied coolly. "I simply worked hard and earned my position. Isn't that what you always preached about merit?" Sarah entered with the documents, and I watched as Nadine signed them with shaking hands. As soon as the papers were complete, I switched to full professional mode. "Now tell me everything. Start with the offshore accounts." Her head snapped up. "How did you—" "I'm very good at my job, Nadine. That's why you're here. Talk." For the next hour, she laid out the mess. Hidden accounts, questionable transfers, board members pointing fingers. With each revelation, her voice grew more desperate. "If this goes public," she whispered, "we'll lose everything. The company, our reputation, Tristan's inheritance." The mention of my son's name hit like a punch to the gut, but I kept my face neutral. "Speaking of Tristan, how is my grandchild doing?" Nadine's eyes widened. "You know about the baby?" "I know everything," I said simply. "Now, about those transfer records." A knock interrupted us. Mauricio stood in the doorway, his expression grave. "Sorry to interrupt, but the SEC just moved up the deadline. We have 36 hours. Nadine's face went ash white. "That's impossible. We can't possibly—" "We can," I cut in, "but you'll have to trust me completely. No more hidden accounts, no more secrets. Everything on the table." She stared at me for a long moment, then reached into her bag and pulled out a USB drive. "This contains everything. If it gets out—" I took the drive, our fingers brushing briefly. Her hand was ice cold. "Attorney-client privilege, Nadine. Whatever's on here stays between us." As she stood to leave, she paused at the door. "Why are you helping me? After everything—" I met her gaze steadily. "Because that's what professionals do. We'll meet again tomorrow at 9. Don't be late." After she left, Mauricio lingered. "You okay?" I plugged the USB drive into my computer, watching files populate the screen. "I'm fine, but something doesn't add up. These transactions, they're too messy for someone like Nadine. She's hiding something bigger." "You think this goes deeper than financial fraud?" I nodded, opening a file labeled Personal Records, 1985. "And I'm going to find out what it is." "Just remember," Mauricio said softly, "some secrets are buried for a reason." I looked up at him, feeling the weight of the past and future pressing in. "So was I, Mauricio, so was I." The conference room buzzed with tension at 3 a.m. Empty coffee cups littered the table, and my team's exhausted faces were lit by laptop screens. We'd been combing through Nadine's files for 18 hours straight. "Look at this," Mauricio said, spinning his laptop toward me. "Every December 15th, there's a transfer of exactly $250,000 to an account in Switzerland." I leaned in, frowning. "For how long?" 35 years, like clockwork. Sarah, fighting sleep at the other end of the table, perked up. "December 15th, 1985. That's the date on that encrypted file we couldn't crack." My fingers flew across my keyboard, pulling up the mysterious file. "Whatever Nadine's paying for, it's not business-related. These payments started before King Industries even existed." "Blackmail?" Mauricio suggested. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Tristan's name flashed on the screen. My heart jumped, but I declined the call. "Vivian," Mauricio said softly. "He's called 3 times tonight." "I'm working," I snapped, then immediately regretted my tone. "Sorry, not now." Sarah cleared her throat. "Ms. Phillips, there's something else. The payments, they're coded under Project Redemption." I was about to dig deeper when the conference room door burst open. Nadine stood there, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her usual composure shattered. "You need to stop," she said, her voice cracking. "Stop looking into those payments." I stood slowly. "Everyone out. Now." My team filed out quickly, leaving me alone with Nadine. She collapsed into a chair, looking every bit her 68 years. "Those records were private," she whispered. "Those records are evidence," I corrected. "Evidence I need to build your defense, unless you'd prefer prison?" "You don't understand." "Then make me understand." I cut in, sitting across from her. "What's Project Redemption? Who's getting $250,000 payments every December?" She shook her head, tears forming. "I can't. I promised." "Promised who?" "Your husband," she said quietly. The words hit me like ice water. "Damien, what does he have to do with this?" Nadine stood abruptly, pacing the room. "You think you know everything, don't you? Think you've got it all figured out? Little Vivian, climbing so high, ready for revenge?" "This isn't about revenge," I lied. "This is about—" "Don't!" She whirled on me. "Don't pretend. I saw your face when I walked into your office. Saw how much you enjoyed watching me squirm." I matched her stare. "Like you enjoyed humiliating me at my son's wedding?" "That was different." "How?" I demanded, standing now too. "How was it different?" "Because I was protecting him," she shouted, then clapped a hand over her mouth. "Protecting who? Damien?" Before she could answer, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mauricio. "Turn on the news, now." I grabbed the remote and flicked on the conference room's TV. A news anchor's voice filled the room. "Breaking news. Former King Industries executive found dead in apparent suicide. Thomas Warren, age 75, was discovered in his home hours after being served with federal subpoenas." Nadine sank back into her chair, white as a sheet. "Oh God, it's happening again." "What's happening again?" I pressed. "Nadine, who was Thomas Warren?" "He was there," she whispered. "That night, December 15th, 1985. My phone buzzed a third time. Tristan again, but this time with a text. "Mom, please. Sierra lost the baby. I need you." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. My grandson, gone before I'd even met them. And now this mystery with Damien, a dead executive, and whatever happened in 1985. "Nadine," I said, my voice softer now. "Whatever this is, whatever happened, I need to know. Not as your lawyer. Not for revenge. But because I think my family is somehow tangled in this too." She looked up at me, and for the first time I saw real fear in her eyes. "If I tell you, everything we built, everything we protected, it all falls apart." "It's already falling apart," I said, sitting beside her. "Let me help, for real this time." She was quiet for a long moment, then reached for her phone. "I need to make a call first, to Damien." "Why?" "Because," she said, her finger hovering over the dial button, "he's the only other person alive who knows the truth about that night. And if Thomas Warren is dead, your husband might be next." Rain pounded against the windows of my office as Damien walked in, looking older than his 47 years. His expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion in his shoulders, the fear in his eyes. Nadine sat rigid in her chair, while I remained standing behind my desk. "You shouldn't have called him," Damien said to his mother, not even glancing my way. "Thomas is dead," Nadine replied sharply. "She needs to know." "Know what?" I demanded. "What happened in 1985? Damien finally looked at me, and for a moment I saw the man I'd married, before money and his mother's influence had hollowed him out. "You should sit down, Vivian." "I'll stand." He sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "There was an accident at the old King factory." "Before it was King Industries," Nadine added, "when it was still Warren Manufacturing." "Thomas Warren's company," I said, pieces starting to click. "The man who just died." Damien nodded. "I was 17, working summer shifts at the factory. There was this girl, my best friend's daughter," Nadine whispered. "Maria, she was 16. "What happened to her?" I asked, though something in my gut already knew. "There was a malfunction." Damien's voice cracked. "The safety protocols. They'd been ignored for months. Cost-cutting measures. She was trapped in the machinery. I tried to help, but—" "She died," Nadine finished. "Thomas covered it up, paid off her family, changed the company name. But every December 15th, the payments, I realized. To Maria's family?" "To keep quiet," Damien confirmed. "But it was more than that. The accident, it wasn't just negligence. Thomas had disabled the safety features himself. For the insurance money. The company was failing." My legal mind raced ahead. "And you both knew. You were witnesses." "We were complicit," Nadine corrected. "I helped arrange the cover-up, to protect Damien, to protect our future." "That's why you hated me," I said, the revelation hitting hard. "Because I was like her. Working class. A liability." "I couldn't let history repeat itself." Nadine's voice was barely audible. "Couldn't let another girl from the wrong side of the tracks destroy everything." "So you destroyed me instead?" The old anger flared. "Humiliated me? Turned my own son against me?" "I turned against myself," Damien interrupted. "Every time I looked at you, I saw Maria. Saw what I'd failed to save. It was easier to push you away than face that guilt." My phone buzzed. Another text from Tristan. "Mom, please, I'm at the hospital. Sierra's not doing well." "Your grandson," I said to Damien. "We lost him today." His face crumpled. "What?" "Sierra miscarried. Our son needs us, and we're here unraveling 30-year-old secrets." Suddenly, Mauricio burst into the office. "The SEC is moving in. They're raiding King Industries right now." Nadine stood shakily. "They'll find the payment records." "They already have," Mauricio confirmed, "and they're reopening the investigation into Maria's death." "No," Damien breathed. "They can't. The family, we promised them privacy." I moved to my computer, fingers flying over the keyboard. "The statute of limitations on manslaughter has expired, but the financial fraud, that's current." "What are you doing?" Nadine asked. "Trying to save what's left of this family," I replied, not looking up. "Mauricio, get me the SEC director on the phone. Now." "Vivienne." Damien stepped forward. "Why would you help us? After everything?" I thought of Tristan, alone at the hospital. Of Maria, trapped in that machine. Of the girl I'd been, standing humiliated in that church. "Because revenge doesn't bring back the dead," I said, meeting his eyes, "and it won't help our son heal." My phone rang, the SEC director. I took a deep breath and picked up. "Director Williams, this is Vivian Phillips. I have a proposition about the King Industries case." I looked at Nadine and Damien as I spoke, seeing not my enemies, but two broken people carrying 3 decades of guilt. "Yes, my clients are prepared to cooperate fully. But first, we need to discuss Maria's family. They've suffered enough publicity." As I negotiated, rain continued to pound against the windows. Somewhere across town, my son sat in a hospital, grieving a future that would never be. And here, in this office, old wounds were finally being lanced, not for revenge, but for healing. The truth, it turned out, was both simpler and more complicated than any revenge I could have planned. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and grief. I found Tristan slumped in a plastic chair outside Sierra's room, his head in his hands. He looked up as my heels clicked against the linoleum, his eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. "Mom?" He stood uncertainly. "You came. Of course I came." I reached for him, and suddenly I was holding my son for the first time in 10 years. He shuddered against me, no longer the angry young man who'd turned away at his wedding, but my little boy who needed his mother. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, "for everything, for choosing them, for—" "Shh." I stroked his hair like I used to when he had nightmares. "How's Sierra?" He pulled back, wiping his eyes. "They're keeping her overnight. She's not good. We thought everything was perfect, you know? We had names picked out and everything." A nurse emerged from Sierra's room. "Mr. Phillips, your wife's asking for you." She paused, seeing me. "Family only right now." "She's my mother," Tristan said firmly. "She stays." Inside, Sierra lay pale against the white sheets. Her eyes widened when she saw me. "Vivian?" "Hello, Sierra." I approached the bed cautiously. "I'm so sorry for your loss." She started to speak, but tears came instead. Tristan rushed to her side, taking her hand. I turned to leave, give them privacy, but Sierra's voice stopped me. "Wait," she called. "Please stay. I need to say something." I sat in the chair by her bed, watching as she gathered herself. "I was horrible to you," she said finally. "At the wedding. Before that, I was so caught up in being what Nadine wanted and fitting into their world." "You were young," I said softly. "We all make choices we regret." "But you didn't deserve it." She squeezed Tristan's hand. "Neither of you deserved to lose each other because of family politics." My phone buzzed. "Mauricio. SEC deal is set. Nadine's ready to confess. Where are you?" I typed back quickly. "Hospital, family emergency. Handle it." "Mom?" Tristan was watching me. "What's going on? I saw the news about King Industries." I took a deep breath. "Your grandmother and father, they're dealing with some legal issues. Old secrets coming to light." "About the girl who died?" Sierra asked. "It's all over social media. Maria Rodriguez, killed in a factory accident in 1985. Tristan's face darkened. Dad was there, wasn't he? That's why he always got weird about factory safety regulations. "It's complicated," I started, but he cut me off. "No, it's not. They covered up a death. Let her family suffer in silence, just like they tried to erase you." "Tristan, I want to know everything," he insisted. "No more family secrets." Before I could respond, Damien appeared in the doorway. He looked even more haggard than before. "Son," he said quietly, "I came as soon as I heard." The tension in the room could have been cut with a knife. Tristan stood, positioning himself between his father and Sierra's bed. "Did you come to check on us, or to make sure your secrets stay buried?" "Tristan," Sierra protested weakly. "No, he's right," Damien said, remaining in the doorway. "I've spent my whole life burying things, truths, guilt, feelings." He looked at me. "Love. Save it," Tristan snapped. "We just lost our baby, Dad. I don't have the energy for your redemption arc." "Then just listen." Damien stepped forward. "The SEC is announcing a deal tomorrow. Full disclosure about Maria, about the cover-up. Your grandmother's stepping down. The company will establish a foundation in Maria's name, funding workplace safety initiatives." "And you?" I asked quietly. "I'm turning myself in for my role in the cover-up. The statute of limitations has expired, but—" He shrugged. "Some things need to be acknowledged." Sierra struggled to sit up. "What about the company? Tristan's inheritance?" "Some things are more important than money," Damien said, looking at his son. "I learned that too late with your mother. I won't make the same mistake with you." Tristan's shoulders slumped. He turned to me, his voice breaking. "Mom, what do we do now?" I stood, taking his hand and reaching for Sierra's. "We heal. Together." "As a family?" Damien asked from the doorway. "As whatever we need to be," I answered. "One day at a time." My phone buzzed again. Nadine this time. "It's done. The statement goes out at midnight. Thank you for finding a better way than revenge." I looked at my broken, healing family in this hospital room and realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's finding the strength to build something new from the ashes of what was lost. 6 months later, I stood in the newly dedicated Maria Rodriguez Memorial Garden, watching as Nadine approached the podium. The autumn air was crisp, and leaves danced around the feet of the gathered crowd. Reporters, corporate executives, and most importantly, Maria's family. 35 years ago, Nadine began, her voice carrying across the silent gathering. I made a choice that haunted 3 generations. Today, we acknowledge that wrong. Beside me, Tristan squeezed my hand. Sierra stood on his other side, her hand resting unconsciously on her stomach. She was 3 months pregnant again, though they were keeping it quiet this time. The Maria Rodriguez Foundation will ensure that no other family suffers as the Rodriguez family has, Nadine continued. Every worker deserves to come home safely to their loved ones. I felt a presence behind me and turned to find Mauricio. The SEC just cleared the final paperwork, he whispered. King Industries is officially under new management. And Damien? I asked quietly. Community service. 2 years. He'll be working with workplace safety advocacy groups. On stage, Nadine was introducing Maria's mother, an elderly woman who carried herself with quiet dignity. As she spoke about her daughter in softly accented English, I noticed movement at the back of the crowd. Damien stood there, watching. Our eyes met briefly before he looked away. We hadn't spoken since the hospital, but Tristan had begun meeting him for coffee once a week. Small steps. Mom, Tristan whispered. Grandmother's signaling for you. Indeed, Nadine was gesturing me toward the podium. This wasn't part of the plan. I hesitated, but Sierra gave me a gentle push. Go, she said. It's time. I walked to the podium, my heels sinking slightly into the soft grass. Nadine stepped aside, but not before whispering, Make it count. The microphone hummed as I adjusted it. I never met Maria Rodriguez, but her story changed my life in ways I'm only now beginning to understand. For years, I thought power meant having the ability to hurt those who hurt you. I was wrong. I saw Cynthia in the crowd, nodding encouragingly. Real power is having the strength to break cycles of pain, to choose healing over hatred, to look at someone who wronged you and see their humanity, even when they failed to see yours. Nadine's sharp intake of breath was audible beside me. The Maria Rodriguez Foundation isn't just about workplace safety. It's about acknowledging that every person has value, regardless of their background or bank account. It's about ensuring that no one is ever made to feel less than human because of where they come from. In the back, Damien had moved closer, listening intently. Today, we're announcing that the foundation will also provide scholarships for working-class students pursuing law degrees, because justice shouldn't be a privilege reserved for the wealthy. Applause broke out, led by Maria's family. Her mother wiped tears from her eyes. And finally, I continued, pulling out an envelope, I'm stepping down as legal counsel for King Industries. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Nadine stiffened beside me. Instead, I'll be heading the foundation full-time, working alongside Maria's family to create real change. Because some things are more important than power or position. Some things are about making right what once went wrong. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, Nadine caught my arm. You're really leaving the firm? It's time, I said. Revenge brought me there, but it's not what should keep me there. I underestimated you, she said quietly, all those years ago. I thought you were cheap trash, I supplied, but without bitterness. I thought you would destroy everything we built. Instead, you helped us build something better. Tristan and Sierra approached, followed by Damien. For a moment, we all stood awkwardly in the garden named for a girl none of us had known, but whose death had shaped all our lives. There's a small reception, Sierra said, breaking the silence. Maria's family would like us all to attend. All of us? Damien asked uncertainly. All of us, Tristan confirmed. It's time we learned how to be a family again. A real one this time. As we walked toward the reception hall, I felt Nadine's hand slip into mine. I'm sorry, she whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. I squeezed her hand once, then let go. Some wounds need more than words to heal, but it was a start. Behind us, the garden stood as a testament to change, not just of corporations or policies, but of hearts, including mine. My phone buzzed with a message from Mauricio. You did good, counselor. Maria would be proud. I looked back at the garden one last time, watching leaves swirl around the memorial plaque. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's becoming someone better than those who tried to break you. The nursery walls were a soft sage green, and sunlight streamed through gauzy curtains. I stood in the doorway, watching Sierra rock my newborn grandson while Tristan hovered nearby, a nervous new father. "Mom, you're staring," Tristan said, but he was smiling. "Can you blame me?" I moved into the room, perching on the window seat. "He's perfect." "Want to hold him?" Sierra asked, already standing. "I need to pump anyway." I took the baby, marveling at how tiny he was. Dark eyes blinked up at me, so much like Tristan's had been. "We named him Marcus," Tristan said softly, "after Maria's father. He came to the hospital yesterday to meet him." The baby gripped my finger, and I felt tears threatening. "That's a good name, a strong name." "Grandmother's downstairs," Tristan said, watching me carefully. "With Dad. They brought dinner." "And you're telling me this because?" "Because they're trying, Mom. We're all trying." A knock at the door revealed Nadine, looking uncertain in a way I'd never seen before. "The lasagna's getting cold, but I can come back." "No," I said, surprising myself. "Come meet your great-grandson properly." She approached slowly, as if afraid I might change my mind. When she saw Marcus's face, she gasped softly. "He looks just like Tristan did," she whispered. "That's what Dad said," Tristan confirmed. I stood, carefully transferring Marcus to Nadine's arms. She held him like he was made of glass, tears falling freely now. "I never thought," she started. "That you'd be allowed this close," I finished. "Neither did I. But here we are." "Here we are," she echoed, then looked up sharply. "Oh, I almost forgot. Maria's daughter called. The Foundation's first scholarship recipients have been chosen. 20 full rides to law school." 20 lives changed, I said, thinking of my own struggle through law school. 20 families given a chance. "Thanks to you," Tristan said, "the vengeful corporate lawyer who turned out to have the biggest heart of all." "Don't push it," I warned, but I was smiling. Damien appeared in the doorway, carrying a stack of plates. "Dinner's ready if anyone's hungry." The awkwardness was still there, but different now, softer, more like the space between stepping stones than a chasm. "Actually," I said, "I could eat." We made our way downstairs, where the dining room table was set for 6. Cynthia had arrived, bringing wine we couldn't drink because of Sierra's nursing, but it felt right having her there. She'd seen me through the worst. She deserved to see the best. "Before we eat," Damien said, standing uncertainly, "I have something for Marcus." He pulled out an envelope. "It's not much, but..." Tristan opened it, then looked up sharply. "Dad, this is..." "My resignation from the Foundation's board," Damien finished. I think it's time for new blood. Someone who can look forward instead of being tied to the past." He was looking at me as he spoke. I understood what he wasn't saying. This was his final step back, his way of truly making amends. "I nominate Mom," Tristan said immediately. "Already done," Nadine cut in. "The board voted this morning. Unanimous decision." I looked around the table, at my son and his wife, my grandson sleeping peacefully upstairs, my former mother-in-law who'd become something like a friend, my ex-husband trying to right old wrongs, and my best friend who'd never lost faith in me. "Well," I said, raising my water glass, "here's to new beginnings, and to Maria, who taught us all that the greatest power isn't in destroying what hurt us, but in building something better from the ruins." "To Maria," they echoed. Later, as everyone was leaving, Nadine lingered. "You know, I spent years protecting what I thought mattered. Money, position, power. But watching you with Marcus today, some things are worth more than revenge," I said simply. "Some things are worth more than pride, too," she replied, hugging me briefly before hurrying out. I stood in the doorway of my son's home, watching taillights disappear into the darkness. Upstairs, I could hear Sierra singing softly to Marcus and Tristan's quiet laughter. My phone buzzed, a text from Mauricio. "First scholarship ceremony next week. Ready to change some lives?" I smiled, typing back, "Ready to build something new." Because that's what this was, really. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not revenge, but redemption. Not the story of how I got even, but of how I got better. And somehow that victory was sweeter than any revenge could have been.